Let me tell you something that most XLM and XRP videos will never say out loud. The IMF has not chosen XRP. The IMF has not chosen XLM. And anyone who tells you otherwise without reading the actual IMF documents is giving you hope dressed up as information. But here is what is actually true. And what is actually true is more powerful than the version most people are sharing. The IMF has been designing the architecture of the future global payment system for the past 4 years. It has described exactly what that system looks like, what technical properties it needs, what 3 layers it must have, and what role private sector and BIS Innovation Hub participants should play in building it. And when you read that architecture carefully, without community bias and without wishful thinking, XRP and XLM are the 2 assets that most precisely match what the IMF said it needs. Not because the IMF endorsed them, because the IMF described a system, and those 2 networks are already running what was described. That is a different argument. It is a harder argument to make, and it is the honest one. So let's start with what the IMF actually published, because the documents exist and they are public, and most people in this community have never read them directly. The IMF's April 2026 tokenized finance paper, published by the International Monetary Fund and authored by its Monetary and Capital Markets Department, says the following: tokenization constitutes a structural shift in financial architecture rather than a marginal efficiency improvement. It describes how permissioned shared ledgers, programmable financial assets, and smart contract-based risk management alter the nature of settlement, liquidity, and systemic risk. The paper emphasizes that the long-term success of tokenization depends on anchoring digital finance in public trust through clear policy frameworks and safe settlement assets, robust governance of code, legal certainty, and international coordination. That is the IMF's April 2026 position on tokenization. Published, formal, official, a structural shift in financial architecture. Smart contract-based risk management, safe settlement assets, international coordination. These are not speculative concepts. These are the IMF's own words describing what the financial system is becoming, and the XE platform, the specific IMF proposal for cross-border payment infrastructure that has generated the most community. Speculation is described in that same document as providing a policy-oriented blueprint for enhancing cross-border interoperability without creating a single supranational ledger. XE envisions a common interface layer that links domestic financial institutions and tokenized infrastructures, allowing jurisdictions to retain control over currency issuance, compliance standards, and monetary policy while facilitating standardized messaging, foreign exchange, conversion, and settlement coordination across borders, standardized messaging, foreign exchange conversion, settlement coordination across borders without a single supranational ledger. Now, here's the critical thing. The community consistently gets wrong about the XC platform. The IMF's lead author, Tobias Adrian, stated explicitly that the fund is not a very operational institution. It is more about governance. The IMF will not build the XC platform. It said so publicly. Its role is policy development, and it said the BIS Innovation Hub and the private sector should build what the XC blueprint describes. Before we dive back into today's video, I just got to take a quick second to say thank you to all my subscribers. I seriously appreciate every single one of you, your likes, your comments, and just sticking with the channel. It means the world to me, and it really helps us grow. And hey, it's time for our subscriber of the day shout out, which goes to Blockage. Thanks so much for subscribing, Blockage. I really appreciate the support, and I hope you're having an awesome day. Alright guys, listen, if you've been around my channel for a minute, you know my golden rule. 0 paid promos, 0 sponsorships. I fiercely protect this community, which means I only share platforms my own money is sitting in and that I completely understand. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on a wealth building tool that has given me absolute peace of mind for over 2 years. Let's talk about GCRIG. I first connected with the GCRIG team face-to-face at New York Fest, and after a trusted buddy walked me through their ecosystem, I was hooked. GCRIG dominates the arbitrage trading space. If you aren't familiar, I highly recommend doing a quick search. But essentially, arbitrage is spotting tiny price gaps across global markets and capitalizing on them instantly. Here is why GCRIG is entirely different. You aren't the one stressing over charts all day. They utilize an advanced, relentless AI powered seamlessly by the CRB network. It scans the market 24/7, deploying your capital with surgical precision to hunt down the best possible returns while you sleep, work, or spend time with your family. As investors, we are all looking for that sweet spot, maximum growth with minimum stress. That is why this platform is the bread and butter of my passive strategy. You get exactly the consistent profit rate you signed up for. The system keeps any excess profit it generates on top of that, and they only take a tiny, flat 1% withdrawal fee on your earnings. It is clean, fair, and incredibly straightforward. You also don't need to be a Wall Street veteran to use this. The platform is phenomenally easy to navigate, making it a breeze even if you are a total beginner. Plus, as of this year, GCRIG fully accepts crypto. Funding your account with digital assets makes the entire process lightning fast, frictionless, and completely borderless. It's time to stop leaving your future on the table and letting your capital sit idle in a system that isn't working for you. GCRIG has given me the ultimate luxury, time, and financial confidence. If you are tired of the guesswork and ready to let cutting-edge AI do the heavy lifting for your financial future, it's time to take control. Don't just watch the market move. Let your money move with it. If you are interested in checking out GCRIG, I'll leave the link below in the description and you can sign up directly. If you're enjoying this kind of content and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and I'd love to have you along for the ride. All right. With that said, let's get back to today's topic. The BIS Innovation Hub built Project Agora. The private sector built the XRP Ledger, the Stellar Network, and the Kinexus infrastructure that connected them in a live production transaction on May 6, 2026. The IMF drew the blueprint, the institutions that matter are building what the blueprint describes, and the XRP Ledger and Stellar Network are already running it in production. That is the honest version of the IMF story. And it is more important than the version where the IMF directly chose XRP or XLM, because the honest version does not require speculation. It is documented, it is verifiable, and it describes a situation where the world's monetary policy think tank laid out exactly what the future payment system needs, and two networks you are already holding are already delivering it. Now, let's be specific about why XRP and XLM match the XE architecture more precisely than any other asset in the digital asset ecosystem. The XE platform has 3 layers. The IMF described them precisely. A settlement layer for tokenized central bank reserves, a programming layer for customized, synchronized, or delayed payments and capital flow management, and an information management layer for compliance checks aligned with local AML rules. The settlement layer, XRP, processes transactions in 3 to 5 seconds at a fraction of a cent. The XRP ledger's built-in decentralized exchange enables atomic currency swaps between tokenized assets. Ripple's RLUSD provides a dollar-pegged settlement asset that MasterCard already integrated into its settlement infrastructure and that JP Morgan's Kinex is connected to on May 6, 2026 in a live production transaction. The settlement layer that the XC platform describes is the architecture the XRP ledger was built around from day one in 2012. The programming layer, XRP, XLM smart contract functionality, its support for conditional payments Multi-party authorization and time-locked transactions is the technical implementation of what the XE platform's programming layer requires. The Stellar Network's configurable public infrastructure, its support for compliance tools including clawback functionality, transfer restrictions, and identity controls built directly into the protocol, is the programming layer that allows jurisdictions to retain control over compliance standards while participating in a shared cross-border infrastructure. The information management layer. This is where ISO 20022 becomes the connecting standard. The IMF's XC platform description requires standardized messaging for compliance screening across jurisdictions. XRP and XLM both are ISO 20022 compatible, the same messaging standard that carries rich structured data about every transaction. Every counterparty, every compliance flag is the language that the XE platform's information management layer requires, and both XRP and XLM speak it natively. The IMF recognized XRP as one of three major solutions capable of transforming international payments. That statement from November 2025 is documented and verifiable, and the specific properties that earned XRP that recognition are the same properties that match the XC platform's three-layer architecture: settlement speed, transaction cost, built-in liquidity provision for currency pairs with limited market depth. These are the IMF's own criteria, and XRP satisfies them for XLM. The connection runs through financial inclusion rather than institutional settlement. The XC platform's architecture explicitly aims to allow foreign entities not directly supervised by the domestic central bank to participate in cross-border settlement. That is the population. XLM was built to serve the 1.4 billion adults who currently have no bank account, the microfinance institutions in Asia, Africa, and Latin America that Water.org's RLUSD partnership is already reaching. An IMF working paper estimated that global cross-border payments, including crypto-enabled transactions, neared $1 quadrillion in 2024. Even a fractional market share could represent substantial adoption and revenue for blockchain networks. $1 quadrillion. That is the market, and the IMF's own research identified it as the market that blockchain-enabled settlement is targeting. XRP and XLM are the two assets that have been explicitly mentioned in IMF research as capable of addressing this market, not because the IMF endorsed them, and because the IMF ascribed the properties required to address it, and those two networks have them today in production, not in a roadmap. Now let's talk about what happens if the IMF's XC platform blueprint is adopted by enough central banks and private sectors participants to become the de facto global standard for cross-border settlement infrastructure. The XE platform does not require a single supranational ledger. It requires a common interface layer. An interface that translates between domestic payment systems, CBDC architectures, and cross-border settlement assets. And the most important property of an interface is that it speaks a common language that every participant can understand. ISO 20022 is that language, and the networks that are ISO 20022 compliant and already processing cross-border settlement at production scale are the networks that the XC interface connects to. If 12 or 15 central banks adopt the XC framework, which the IMF's April 2026 paper describes as a growing priority, every participating central bank needs a settlement asset that can bridge between their domestic CBDC and the currencies of other participating countries. That bridge asset needs three properties: settlement speed measured in seconds, transaction cost measured in fractions of a cent, and ISO 20022 compatible structured data in every transaction. XRP and XLM both have all three today in production, not in a roadmap. Now, the price implication of XC platform adoption across 12 or 15 central banks and private sector participants is not straightforward to calculate, but the market cap math provides a boundary condition. XRP's current market cap is $68 billion, addressing a global cross-border payment market the IMF estimates at close to $1 quadrillion annually, even capturing 0.1% of that market as recurring settlement volume would represent $100 billion of annual flow through XRP's infrastructure. The fee mechanism that connects that volume to XRP price through ODL liquidity provision is not a simple linear relationship, but the directional math is unambiguous. If XRP becomes a bridge asset in XC-compatible cross-border settlement for even a fraction of the markets the IMF identified, the $68 billion market cap is not the right number. XLM at 22 cents with a market cap of $8 billion is. Addressing the same quadrillion-dollar market from the financial inclusion angle, the $1 quadrillion estimate includes crypto-enabled transactions. The Stellar Network's payment volume grew 72% year-over-year in Q1 2026. The DTCC chose Stellar as its first public blockchain for the tokenization of Wall Street securities. Franklin Templeton, PYUSD, US Bank, M&D, and the DTCC are all building on the same network that the IMF's XC platform architecture most closely resembles in its current production form. The IMF said tokenization constitutes a structural shift in financial architecture. It said the private sector should build what the XE platform blueprint describes. It said XRP is one of three major solutions capable of transforming international payments, and it estimated the market at close to $1 quadrillion annually. You have been holding XRP and XLM while the IMF was publishing those documents, while Tobias Adrian was describing the XC platform architecture in roundtable discussions, while the IMF's research team was producing working papers that identified the cross-border payment market as the largest financial infrastructure market in history. The IMF did not choose XRP and XLM, but the architecture it described as the future of global cross-border settlement looks almost exactly like what the XRP Ledger and Stellar Network already are. And when enough central banks and private sector participants start building toward that architecture, the assets that are already running it in production are the ones that get repriced to reflect what infrastructure at that scale is actually worth. That is not hope. That is the honest reading of the IMF's own documents, and it is more powerful than any claim of formal endorsement ever could be. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing here constitutes financial, legal, or investment advice. Always do your own research and consult qualified professionals before making any financial decisions. If this video gave you the complete and honest picture of what the IMF has actually said, what it has not said, and why what it has said points more clearly at XRP and XLM than most community content has been willing to acknowledge, hit the like button right now. That signal pushes this to XRP and XLM holders who need the honest version. Rather than the hopeful version, subscribe. Because when the IMF's April 2026 tokenized finance paper produces its first policy response from member governments, and when the XC platform blueprint moves from theory to the kind of practical implementation that the BIS Project Agora represented, this channel will break down every development in real time. And drop a comment with this. Which of the three XC platform layers, the settlement layer, the programming layer, or the information management layer, do you think XRP or XLM addresses most completely right now? That technical debate tells me exactly how deep this community's understanding of the IMF architecture actually goes. Share this with whoever in your circle has been sharing the oversimplified version of the IMF and XRP story. The honest version is more powerful, and it does not require a single unverified claim.